Hare Krishna, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Srimate Ramanujaya Namaha. Welcome to the Bhakti Rahasyam episode number 40. After an unavoidable gap of 3 weeks due to various reasons, we are back to continue with our Thirukkolur Penpillai Rahasyam episodes. In our Sanatana Dharma, symbols have a special value and great significance. Be it the symbol of Om, be it the symbol of Swastik, be it the symbol of a holy bell or the holy slippers of the Lord or the great spiritual masters of the past. We continue to respect, revere and worship all these symbols because these symbols have a great spiritual meaning behind them. Our dharma teaches us to hold these in the highest respect. Now, these symbols have the capacity to give us the peace of mind, to keep us in a happy state of mind, and also help us to establish a connect with the divine. So, by now you would have guessed it that today's Thirukkolur Penpillai Rahasyam is something connected to a symbol. We will see that in a while. So, Thirukkolur Penpillai today is comparing herself with one of the devotees of Swami Ramanuja himself. Unaware of the fact that Swami Ramanuja was standing in front of her and she was indeed speaking to him. She was narrating Bhakti Rahasyams to him with full faith in her heart. She did not know that it was Swami Ramanuja, and this episode is special because she is talking about one of Swami Ramanuja's devotees only, and in that process, that story has a life incident of Swami Ramanuja himself. So she is talking to Swami Ramanuja about an incident or a part of his life's story. So we will see that in a while. What we will do today is we will take up the Bhakti Rahasyam towards the end of the story once we see what the comparison is. So let's get started with the Rahasyam or the story itself. So it is about a lady devotee, female devotee of Swami Ramanuja called Sumati, who happens to stay in the southwest part of Bharat. The literature says that that particular region is Kung Desam. So to me, Kung Desam would be somewhere in and around Konkan or the northern part of Karnataka. So her name is also coined as Kongil Piratti. Kongil is from the region of Kong and Piratti is a lady. So Kongil Piratti is this devotee's name. Now, when this Kongil Piratti was staying in this region of Kong, it so happens that that particular region witnesses a severe drought. A lot of people move out of that region in search of livelihood, and Kongil Piratti is also forced to take that step where she, along with her family, she moves from the region of Kong to Srirangam, which is the abode of great Lord Ranganatha. It was a period of time where Swami Ramanuja was also staying in Srirangam. If we analyze the life history of Swami Ramanuja, he never has been tied to a particular place. At one point of time, he was in the temple town of Kanchipuram. Then there came a time span of around 20 to 25 years where he continuously travels the length and the breadth of the entire Bharat Desha, seeing various Divya Desams or the holy places associated with Lord Vishnu. And there is a point in time where he is back in Srirangam. So at this point in time, when Swami Ramanuja was also staying in Srirangam, he had an ashram or a mutt from where he used to carry out his spiritual activities. Now, Kongil Piratti moved to one of her relatives' place in the very Srirangam, and the relative's house was just a stone throw away from Swami Ramanuja's mutt. So Kongil Piratti, after coming into a new place, to explore the place, she used to go to the terrace of the house where she was residing, and from there she used to see the vibrant life, the vibrant life which was filled with spiritual activities in Srirangam. Even today, if one happens to step into Srirangam, the spiritual air, the spiritual vibes are difficult or impossible to miss. So if that is the situation today, imagine 1,000 years back, it would have been brimming with lot more spirituality, lot more spiritual vibes, and Kongil Piratti was experiencing all those. Now at one point in time, she happens to see Swami Ramanuja's ashram. So she witnesses that there are a lot of people who are coming to the ashram. They are communicating or interacting with Swami Ramanuja. Swami Ramanuja is telling something to the people assembled. The people give gifts, and there is a huge annadana or the food service to these devotees which happens. So this is the regular routine activities which she notes that it is happening in this ashram. Then she also notices one strange thing, where around the noon time, Swami Ramanuja is out on the streets, and he goes to a minimum of 7 houses where he collects food in his holy bowl from the various householders. Now she is curious of this fact that this person runs a huge ashram. He is having visitors, they are giving him gifts, they are getting food service in return. Yet why should this person go to various houses and ask for food? Yet there was no logical answer which was striking her, so she chose to wait. It so happens on that particular day, Swami Ramanuja comes to her relative's house, that is the house where Kongil Piratti was staying, for food. Seeing the right and opportune time to kill her curiosity, she immediately rushes down. She stops Swami Ramanuja midway, and Swami Ramanuja is, in fact, he is amused to see this lady standing in front of him, and he asks her why is she preventing him from going ahead. The lady says that she has a question which has been bothering her for long, and she, whatever is in her mind, she speaks it out to Swami Ramanuja, that in spite of having everything in abundance in your ashram itself, why do you come out for food? Swami Ramanuja is completely impressed with the innocence of this lady Kongil Piratti. So he chooses to disclose the Shastras, which following which he goes by this way of life. He says that he is a sannyasi, and as per the Sanatana Dharma Shastras for sannyasi, that is the way of living or the rules for living for a sannyasi, is such that a sannyasi cannot collect food or collect wealth. He has to live for the day. So that is the reason why he goes around 7 houses collecting food. And again, these should not be the same 7 houses, it should be in rotation. That is one point. The second point he makes is, since again as a head of that ashram or mutt, there are many people who are coming to him with their problems, and he is giving them, or by talking to them, he is making them feel happy, feel contented. So in return they give something to him, but it is not he who collects it, it is the ashram who collects it. And since they are the guests, they are fed in the ashram. So hearing this response, Kongil Piratti feels that her questions are answered, because it is about Swami Ramanuja following the sannyasa way of life or the path of living. So she takes a step forward. She says, "Oh Swami, you said that you help people forget their worries by answering their questions. So what is that? How can people get happiness? So am I eligible to get that response from you? Will you please help me with the reply?" Swami Ramanuja, for a second, he is taken aback, because this is not the way one asks or seeks spiritual knowledge. But he is equally impressed by the fact that someone has come to him of her own seeking spiritual knowledge, so he cannot refuse it. So he says to Kongil Piratti to recite the holy name of the Lord, Om Namo Narayana. He says, just continue reciting this mantra and go on carrying with your work. You should feel the bliss, you should feel the happiness living your daily life. Saying so, he blesses Kongil Piratti and he goes on carrying his duties. Now Kongil Piratti is living in Srirangam for a considerable period of time. At times she recalls the discussions with Swami Ramanuja, she chants Om Namo Narayana, does her duties. At times she forgets. So this is how her time in Srirangam passes. Now it so happens back in her region of Kong, after some years there are heavy rains, the drought vanishes, and it is time for her to go back to her native. But when she is about to leave Srirangam, she feels the desire to meet Swami Ramanuja once more, because he has been a spiritual teacher to her. It so happens that on that particular day, Swami Ramanuja, when he is doing his rounds for collecting food, he comes to the place where Kongil Piratti is staying. That time again Kongil Piratti comes down and humbly bowing to Swami Ramanuja, she explains that the drought in her native place has vanished because of adequate rains, and she is about to go back to her place. So she also admits that she has forgotten the mantra which Swami Ramanuja had given to her some years back in Srirangam. So she humbly asks him for the mantra if he can help her again. Again, Swami Ramanuja feels that this lady has the guts to admit her folly, and to err is human, we know. So, but to admit that error, it takes some guts. So Swami Ramanuja, pleased with her truthfulness, he advises or chants the mantra Om Namo Narayana to her again and asks her to chant it continuously. Kongil Piratti is happy. Now, when the time comes for her to go back, that is when she requests Swami Ramanuja that you have been my great spiritual master, and I would like that to carry that impression throughout my life. So I request you to give me something from your possession so that I can keep it in your remembrance, because she is now going back to her territory, that is the Kong region. Now, those were the days when we didn't have easy connectivity or transportation, so there was no point in expecting that she would again come back to Srirangam, because she would have various duties in her life, or there was no certainty if Swami Ramanuja would come to the Kong region. So practically there was no point in expecting that she would see Swami Ramanuja again. So she wanted something from Swami Ramanuja in permanent memory. Swami Ramanuja says again, he is a sannyasi, he has no possessions. So what can he give her apart from the mantra Om Namo Narayana? That's when Kongil Piratti, so see her cleverness, she notices that Swami Ramanuja is wearing his slippers. So she respectfully asks for those slippers. She says, Swami, if you give me those holy slippers of yours, with that I will, and with the chanting of the mantra, I will carry on my rest of the life in your memory. So please don't refuse. Can you partake of your holy slippers? So Swami Ramanuja has no words to express on the devotion which is shown by this lady devotee, who in her mind had accepted Swami Ramanuja as her savior. So he gives her his holy slippers and happily sees her off Srirangam to the region of Kong. And Kongil Piratti respectfully worships these holy slippers for a long time in her place. There are various other connected stories which we are not going to see now, where she has experiences with the holy slipper, and the power of her devotion to her master Swami Ramanuja makes Swami Ramanuja come to the region of Kong many years later because of some happenings around Srirangam. So that's a different topic in itself. If I start that, it would be another Bhakti Rahasyam. Maybe let us try. I'll continue that portion where Swami Ramanuja, what makes Swami Ramanuja comes to the region of Kong in the next Bhakti Rahasyam. So that was the power of the devotion which Kongil Piratti possessed, by which she could get the holy slippers of Swami Ramanuja and made it as a symbol of her worship for the entire lifetime. This beautiful incident is captured by Thirukkolur Penpillai. She says, oh, am I so great like Kongil Piratti, who could get the holy slippers of Swami Ramanuja? Where am I? Where is she? What is her level of devotion? And what is the level of humility by which she could get the mantra Om Namo Narayana from the great Saint Swami Ramanuja himself? Now, this is a different episode in the sense Thirukkolur Penpillai is comparing herself with a contemporary. In the earlier Bhakti Rahasyams, she has compared herself with the great saints of the past who lived much beyond her time span. But here she was talking about someone, about Kongil Piratti, who was maybe, I don't know the age or the time gap when they lived, but it should be within say 30-40 years. So she was talking about contemporary and the devotion that lady displayed. So this was our Bhakti Rahasyam, where we saw the humility and the devotion displayed by Kongil Piratti. So this has a lesson for us in terms of displaying humility, staying devoted, staying connected, always being curious. Now Kongil Piratti was curious enough, which led her to ask her questions to Swami Ramanuja, and Swami Ramanuja explaining her the mantra and the secrets for a happy living. So that's all from our current Bhakti Rahasyam. As I promised, the next Bhakti Rahasyam would be a continuation of this Bhakti Rahasyam only, Kongil Piratti, where we will see how Kongil Piratti worshipped the holy slippers of Swami Ramanuja throughout her life, and there are one or two small stories and incidents connected with those. So our Bhakti Rahasyam statement is, Thirukkolur Penpillai says, "Did I get the holy slippers like Kongil Piratti?" So that's all from the current episode. Stay blessed, stay devoted, and stay tuned for our next Bhakti Rahasyam. Radhe Krishna, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Srimate Ramanujaya Namaha.